What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 45 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Monday, January 27th, 2024. I'm your host, Zach Malum. But before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the NFL as the New York Jets, after confirming the hiring of head coach Aaron Glenn, have now hired a general manager in Darren Mougey. He was the assistant general manager for the last couple of seasons out in Denver for the Broncos, and he comes in for his first GM job, and he takes it for the New York Jets. A former player that Mougey is, and went undrafted and played on a practice squad for a couple of teams, the Falcons and the Cardinals, in his career, but played 4 years at San Diego State, a former player, and comes in to Denver, where he was part of a lot and really took a number of jobs in scouting, player personnel, as well as he was the assistant GM, like I mentioned, for the last couple of seasons. So in my mind, this is a really strong hire for the Jets. They obviously saw something in Mougey at 39 years old, a very young GM in the end, and he comes in to a Jets overhaul, it seems. When you look at Aaron Glenn coming in as well, they really need to pick up this defense. I think when you look at Mougey and the kind of player that he was, a tall, a lot of size, and a wide receiver. He was a big wide receiver in the end in college. So that points to me a little bit more of looking at guys in the trenches and offensive and defensive line positions that the Jets really need to touch up on in this offseason. Also could look at other guys where the Jets sit right now at 7th overall in the NFL draft, looking at guys like a corner maybe, but I think the main objective is probably those guys in the trenches. And obviously with the Jets where they are in the draft this year, it should be interesting to figure that out. But the partnership between Glenn and Mougey, I think should be a good one here. And two guys that don't have a lot of experience in terms of their positions right now. Glenn, obviously, as a head coach, first-timer, and Mougey as a general manager, first-timer as well. So they're kind of both getting through it together, but I think they could build a big-time partnership for the New York Jets. So an interesting move, but I think it's going to be a good one, and we'll see what happens as Mougey takes the general manager job of the New York Jets. Let's switch things to the hardwood as the New York Knicks are in action tonight, taking on the Memphis Grizzlies as part of this 5-game homestand for New York. Grabbed the first game of the homestand against Sacramento the other night. They completely destroyed Sacramento in the end, putting up 143 points. Don't see that too often from this Knicks team, but a great performance from them. And 7:30 start tonight. They come in as 3.5-point favorites. Total sitting at 241.5. Very high one, especially after the Knicks put up the numbers they did the other night. And when you look at the Grizzlies, they come into this game 31-15. They are 12-10 on the road, and they're really feeling good right now out in the Western Conference. They take on the Knicks on a 6-game win streak. And a lot of those games, yes, were against a bit of weaker opponents. I mean, you're talking about 2 wins over the Spurs. They take down Minnesota. Then you have Charlotte, Utah, as well as New Orleans, 3 of the bottom teams in the NBA right now. So it hasn't been the strongest schedule for them, but I mean, you got to win games and you got to beat who's on your schedule, and Memphis has done that. They're on a good run right now and sitting pretty at 31-15 in the Western Conference. So not going to be an easy game tonight for New York, but like I said, they're 3.5-point favorites, and I think this is going to be a tough test for the Knicks. They have something to prove tonight, in my mind, about those teams in the West and those top teams in the West. They already took down Denver this year, but it feels like for the Knicks that they haven't been able to get over the top against those top teams in each conference, whether it's Cleveland and Boston or on the other side in Denver, as well as the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the Memphis Grizzlies. So when you look at that, I think the Knicks have to maybe almost make a statement tonight. And on their home floor, they have the crowd behind them. They got to step up big time. And it's just another tough test in this homestand. And like I said, it's not going to get any easier for the Knicks in this stretch here, taking on tough teams, the Lakers as well as Denver, and then you have the Rockets. And so I think it's just going to be a tough stretch for the Knicks, but the positive sign for me is that they are at home, and they've been a good home team this year. The Knicks have been, so they should handle business here, but it's not going to be easy. I expect the Knicks to win, but it's going to be a close one in my mind. And like I said, the Knicks have a point to prove here against Memphis and against those top teams in the Western Conference. Those teams that have just a bit of an edge over the Knicks right now. Can they grab those important wins and continue to rack them up to chase a team like Boston, who's in second and spiraling just a little bit in the East, as well as a team like Cleveland, who seems like they're almost ready to secure the 1 seed if they don't drop any games here or there. So should be interesting. Tune in tonight, 7:30 start. Knicks have a tough one at MSG as they take on the Memphis Grizzlies tonight. A quick college basketball update for you as we look back towards Saturday's games. It was a real tough slate, and obviously Auburn comes up big in the end to beat Tennessee. A very ugly game, a 22-20 halftime score. I don't think anybody expected the score to be that low down in Auburn, especially with how high-powered Auburn's offense is. It just was a struggle for both teams, but Auburn, that's what they do. They find a way to win. Even when they're playing as bad as they were, they found a way to win. Only shooting 31% from the field on the day, only shot 15% from three-point range, but found a way to win, and that's what matters in the end. So a big-time performance by Auburn, and Tennessee gets their third loss of the season, won't move down too much. They really took Auburn to the end, so they won't move down too much in my mind in the rankings for this upcoming week. But very interesting game out in Allen Fieldhouse in Kansas, and just really explains my thoughts on Kansas right now. A team that cannot finish a game strong, cannot hit free throws, and turns the ball over in the last 10 seconds when you have a 6-point lead is not a team that I really trust to win it all this year or really just challenge any of those top teams. And we're talking about the top teams in the country being a lot of SEC teams. That can't happen against those SEC teams. I think Kansas has kind of proven a little bit with that game what they're almost about this year. I'm not counting them out completely, but I do think it's going to be difficult if you play games like that and you cannot finish games strong and really make free throws and turn the ball over in the end. You're not going to be successful later in the year and into March. It's just not going to happen. So that really explained to me what Kansas is about right now, and a bit of a struggle with them. And I think they're the third best team in the conference. There's an argument maybe they're the fourth best team in the Big 12. So right now it's a bit of a iffy situation for Bill Self and his guys, and they have to bounce back big time after a loss like that. A game they should have comfortably won in the end in overtime, and they give it up and lose in double overtime. So a really frustrating situation, I'm sure, for Bill Self, and really probably got into his guys at the end of that game, but they really need to bounce back strong, and we'll see what happens with Kansas for the rest of the season. As for tonight's games, we got a couple really strong ones, and Duke takes on NC State. They'll probably blow out NC State in the end. They're coming into that game 8:30 tonight. 22.5-point favorites. The line actually moved down to 21.5. So maybe the public liking a bit of NC State. 22 points, 21.5 points now on their home floor. I get it, but I mean, that's a lot of points. So we'll see what happens. But Duke has been so spectacular so far this season, and even a tough game on the road on the weekend against Wake Forest, they made it look easy in the end. They are rightfully so the second best team in the country, definitely behind Auburn in my mind. I know they beat Auburn, but I think there's the positives and negatives of that. Of course, it being at Cameron, I think on a neutral site, Auburn would probably get the edge, but that's neither here nor there. Both those teams are fantastic right now, and Duke looking to continue their run as they sit at number 2 in the country. The big game in my mind comes up tonight, 10:30 as number 3 Iowa State taking on Arizona, who's unranked, but it is at Arizona. Not an easy place to play, especially as a ranked team if you're Iowa State. And rightfully so in my mind. Arizona comes in 2.5-point favorites. I'd take the Wildcats in this situation. I think the Wildcats come up big on their home floor. Very tough place to play at the McHale Center in Tucson. And I just think, although I'm a big Iowa State guy and I believe they're a true contender for a national championship, it's just not easy to go to certain places in college basketball and win. And I think the McHale Center is one of those places, even though Arizona has 6 losses on the year. They are 7-1 in Big 12 play. So they proved that they could win games, and I think they're going to win another one tonight on their home floor. But we'll see what happens. And as for the next couple of days, just tomorrow's slate is a big-time one. The big game, I'll just talk about that one. Number 12, Kentucky, taking on number 8, Tennessee. As obviously the rankings have been confirmed now, and the move in the AP poll, Kentucky drops just a little bit to 12, and Tennessee drops to 8, just 2 spots after that loss to Auburn on the road. So that one should be a great matchup, and Kentucky taking on Tennessee. I expect Kentucky to bounce back after that loss to Vandy. I just think that the Wildcats are a little bit spiraling, and I think under a first-year head coach in Mark Pope, they do have to figure some things out. It's just tough to win on the road in the SEC. I do expect, like I said, Kentucky to bounce back here. Tennessee probably going to win the game, but Kentucky will keep this one really close. They think they're really going to challenge this Tennessee defense, but at home in Knoxville, I mean, Tennessee's almost been untouchable. So that's really why I would pick Tennessee to win the game in the end. But like I said, Kentucky's going to give them a real strong run here, and that should be a great game tomorrow night. A couple of games tomorrow night, so really tune into a great slate in college basketball. Let's finish things off today as we just look back to the NFL and the championship games for both the AFC and the NFC. Let's start off in the NFC as the Philadelphia Eagles absolutely trounced their division rival, the Washington Commanders, 55-23. How about it at the Lincoln? 21 points in the fourth quarter to 0 for Washington. Really blew up the score, and in the end, I think the story of this game was Saquon Barkley. How could it not be? I mean, he really started off strong and kind of simmered down as the game went on, but that was because Philly was up so much at that point. They were completely destroying Washington and didn't need a guy like Saquon Barkley to continue to run it up. So he had 3 touchdowns, though, and that's a big-time performance by him on the ground. 15 carries. That's it. Only 15 carries, but at 118 yards. Of course, the help of that 60-yarder in the first quarter, that definitely helps the stat line and really boosted up the numbers there. Really great performance by Philly, and rightfully so. They have been really strong in the NFC for this nice stretch of the season. They started off slow, and they really just went on from there. That long win streak dropped a couple games here and there, but they stood really strong at the top of the NFC. And of course, if they took on Detroit, we could be talking about a different story. But I mean, the Eagles, in my mind, were the best team down the stretch, even better than Detroit in the NFC, with how they went on that win streak and just the one loss to Washington in a game on the road. I mean, you really look at Philly and say, wow, what a team they have this year, and they really deserve to be in the Super Bowl. Rightfully so, as they take on now the winner of the AFC Championship, the Kansas City Chiefs, once again. And I said it on Friday's episode, how can you pick against Patrick Mahomes? You just can't do it. How can you pick against him? And everybody, I understand that they wanted Josh Allen. They want something new. But you're witnessing greatness. You're witnessing one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player in NFL history. He's on that track right now, and he's behind in second place right now in most playoff wins all time. It's just 7 years into his career. The only guy he's behind is Tom Brady at number 1, and however many wins that is, that's a lot more to go. But just to be sitting there in second place and passing Joe Montana, to be second all-time in playoff wins in just 7 seasons. I mean, it's just crazy right now what Patrick Mahomes is doing. And like I said, enjoy it right now. You're witnessing greatness, and I understand that people have a bit of a anger towards the Chiefs and how they continue to find ways to win, and maybe that the refs are on their side and this, that, and the other thing. You're witnessing greatness, and watch Patrick Mahomes just continue to roll in his NFL career, because he is remarkable. He just finds ways to win. And even the Chiefs were down a couple times in this game, and what did Mahomes do? He gets out of the pocket, had a couple rushing touchdowns in this one. I mean, just big time plays, and that's a winner right there. That's a Super Bowl winner, and he's looking for the three-peat, as it's going to be the Chiefs taking on the Eagles in Super Bowl 59. But as for the Bills, just quickly, I mean, it's tough. I mean, when you go up against a wagon of a team and just a championship team every single year in your conference, it's just not easy. And Josh Allen's going to have a great NFL career. We already see that so far. He just is going to have to at least once get over Patrick Mahomes. That's going to be the one thing that Josh Allen needs to do. It could happen in the next couple of years. I'm not doubting that Josh Allen can do so. He's just going to have to get through Patrick Mahomes. I feel like the big thing for the Bills is continuing to win during the regular season, so you could ultimately have Patrick Mahomes come to you in Buffalo. I know that's happened once before, and Patrick Mahomes passed the test, but you got to do it again. You got to make it difficult for a guy like Mahomes, and it's not easy to beat him, especially at Arrowhead. So that's really the story for the Bills. Continue to try and get that 1 seed and make things run through you up in Buffalo. Nobody really wants to go to Orchard Park and play the Bills. It's just not going to happen. No team really looks forward to that, especially during the regular season or even the playoffs. It's just not that way. So the Bills, like I said, I think I feel for them, and I feel for a guy like Josh Allen who just cannot get over the hump against a guy like Patrick Mahomes. But really settle things down during the regular season and continue to roll. That's going to be the mindset for the Buffalo Bills. So Eagles and Chiefs, obviously a lot more to talk about for the big game on February 9th, and we'll obviously get to that. But it's the Chiefs taking on the Eagles. The Chiefs beat the Bills 32-29. Eagles trounced the Commanders 55-23, and Super Bowl 59 is set in New Orleans. But that'll do it for episode 45 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malamud. Thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Wednesday.